It has been a decade of waiting, a decade of updates, and a decade of whatever the heck has happened on this planet Earth. But the developers of War of Rights are finally going to be dropping horses into the game on July 17th on the year of our Lord 2026. Now, this is a very big deal for a lot of reasons. Horses has been the pinnacle of what has been discussed about in the War of Rights community. If you go on any War of Rights YouTube video, the comments will be talking about where are horses. We're going to get GTA 6 before horses, etc. You go on the official War of Rights Discord any moment past today, and most of the conversation will be about where and when are horses. And so, because of this announcement and the fact that Update 200 is dropping with horses, this moment is going to be a make or break opportunity for the game. There's a lot of reasons for that. Obviously, there's the context of this game's been 10 years, and as I've just described, horses has been the talking point. And on top of this as well, we haven't had a major update in the game over a year. And you can argue that we haven't really had a good content update in multiple years. The last, you could argue, good content update was back in winter of, I think, 2024, when they dropped the drill camp skirmish maps. But even before drill camp skirmish maps, they really didn't get a whole lot except for when artillery was dropped in 2020. Everything since 2020 or COVID has dropped has really been game optimizations. It has been increasing the player count. We've gone from 200, I think, in 2020, 200 to 250, now up to 400. They've tested 500 last summer, but we haven't heard anything since then. And the changes, at least since update 199 over a year ago when that was dropped, have either been ticket balance changes or it's been limited time event stuff, which isn't permanent content. So the fact that this has been building up for a decade with horses, and on top of that, there hasn't been too much update changes or content changes to the game in multiple years, you can argue. That's why I think it's going to be a make or break opportunity for the game. Now, the developers are not a very communicative team. They haven't been really since already in 2020. And so as time goes on, the expectations for what this is going to be is going to increase. And I mean, that only makes sense. Anyone as an individual is going to think, oh, if you're taking longer to work on something, the better it should be. And if the developers don't set the expectations for that, which they don't communicate, and it is their job, in my opinion, to set expectations on what their game is going to be, you have a lot of people that have really high expectations for what horses are going to be right now. And so that's part of the reason why it's going to be a make or break game. But on top of the points of no communication, there has been a lot of frustration mounting up in the community as well, especially on the regimental side. And I talked to a lot of regimental people, and frankly, they all, or at least the majority of them, have the same thoughts on it, where we don't have a lot of content update. There's no communication from the devs on it. And so it's kind of like, what are they doing? So you'd almost rather at a point just say, hey, we're not working on this, than just sitting off and hiding and posting something every once in a while, which, to the credit of these developers, despite not really giving communication about the game whatsoever, they continue to work on it. They're continuing to try to improve it to what they think is a great game. And it obviously is a great game. I find it a phenomenal game. I wouldn't be covering War of Rights as I is for multiple years if this was the case. But on top of all these expectations that keep growing due to a silent dev team, and on top of all the frustrations that are mounting over developers not communicating, the updates we're getting aren't things that the developers talked about. The developers have talked about many big things which the community would like to see. They have talked about a service records, an online website where we can like join a regiment, see a bunch of stats and whatnot. They've talked about that. They've talked about server hosting. They've talked about map creation, like you can make your own maps and post them. Like, they talk about all these huge things that are phenomenal, but then they just don't update the game at all with that stuff. You have like scopes and ballistics. They never talked about that. 1776, they never talked about that. Zombies, they never talked about that. And I mean, maybe they're just getting bored with the main game and, want to try other things, but it's like they're always working on things that they don't talk about, or at least is seen anyways, because that's the thing that they do publicly. Is the public things are the things they update. They don't communicate otherwise. So the things we see that they're working on is stuff that they don't talk about, and the things they do talk about, they don't work on it. And the problem is that statement could be very well false for all we know, but the devs don't communicate. So it is hard to say otherwise unless the developers come out and show some proof of, hey, we're working on these things, which based on the fact that they're dropping horses now, that's probably the case. So in long-winded terms, it's a huge make or break update. Again, it's been a decade for horses. It's been over a year since a major update has occurred. There's a lot of expectations coming with update 200, on top of the fact that 200 is just, an important number and all things considered. Like, you don't care for 199, 198, 200, that's big. But on top of those three things, you have the frustrations that are mounting. So this update is going to be a make or break moment for the game. War of Rights is a phenomenal game, and the amount of views it's gotten on social media, frankly, it is wild that this game doesn't have more of an active player base. And there's a lot of debate and argument as to why that is. But in the end, it is what it is, and that's what we have to deal with. And it has come down to the developers now to see with update 200 if they can reach the moment and snag it. Wow, I almost misworded that. But yeah, we'll see if they can reach the moment. We'll see what their expectations are. Again, they're dropping this on Friday, July 17th. In all likelihood, I will still be working when they drop this update, which I'm not too happy about. I almost wish they would do it Saturday morning, but it is what it is. The developers can do what they want with their game, and we will be covering it a lot that weekend. Friday night on July 17th, I'll be live streaming the game most likely for a good few hours of that night, whether it be actually playing or spectating. We'll probably spectate because that's what we do here. And then on top of the broadcast that we do throughout the weekend, we'll probably do some more live streams as well to get feedback, talk with people, and more. But of course, if you're interested, please consider subscribing, and we'll post the schedule as time goes on. But yeah, it's crazy to think about. I don't know what to think about. I think that the expectations are way too high for what horses are going to be. I mean, how horses could be phenomenal in my mind is if there's actually like a cav on cav mode. We have 200 players going at it back and forth with cavalry. I think that would be phenomenal. I don't think that'll happen because they'll either have to introduce a new map pack, which would enrage me because it's like you haven't released Shepherdstown, or another map pack like Gettysburg, although the devs said they don't want to touch Gettysburg, which is beyond me, but that's besides the point. Cavalry battles would be huge, but I think really most of this is going to be moving artillery around, allowing officers to move around the field more, and maybe some people can spawn in on horses on some of these bigger maps. Because in reality, right, when you think of a 200v200 man battle, how many horses are you going to give each side? And on top of the fact, too, that these things are going to be live targets. Anyone that sees a horse, and myself included, they're just going to want to shoot the horse. So realistically, how long is someone going to be able to actually live on a horse? Not that long. And I mean, again, we'll see what happens when the update drops, because again, it's all speculation. The developers have not said anything, but I think that's what makes it curious, and that's what updates can do for a game. And I have a lot of thoughts on this, and I've given some of them. I am cautiously optimistic, but I would say don't get your hopes too high, just because, again, you'd rather it be the inverse way than get too high expectations on this, especially when we don't know what they're doing. Expectations and communication, as the last thing in the video, expectations and communications are one of the most important things you can do, I think, frankly, in any situation, on top of being honest. Because otherwise, people don't know what to expect, and then people will inflate their thoughts on something or deflate, and it can really mess with people. So, yeah. Anyways, please give your thoughts about horses in the comment section below, and we will see you all on the next one. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your night.